You used to know where to find people. The chess players at the park, the woman who led free yoga classes at the rec center every Wednesday, the owner of the local cafe who knew your name and was always in the know about what was happening around town. And then, slowly, quietly, these neighborhood staples started to cut hours or vanished entirely. These spots, which are referred to as third places by sociologists, were never glamorous but felt familiar and reliable, and without them, something bigger has slipped away, a sense of belonging.
Literature has shown that these bridging ties, this sense of kind of a broader sense of social cohesion and capital and support with each other, is immensely, immensely important for our kind of collective health as a community and as a society.
That's Dr. Jessica Finlay, an assistant professor in the Department of Geography and Institute of Behavioral Science at the University of Colorado Boulder. Part of her research looks at how a person's built and natural environment affects their health and well-being as they age.
My research looks at how neighborhoods might impact dementia risk. So does your neighborhood enable you to be socially active, physically active, cognitively stimulated in creative and complex learning activities, and not overexposed to hazards? So altogether, where we live fundamentally shapes who we are and how well we live and how long we live.
Finlay breaks down the meaning behind the phrase and what exactly qualifies as a third place.
So home is your first place if you're fortunate enough to have a home environment. Work and school, I would argue, are your second places. And then third places are the sites that we choose to gather and connect with other people. So these sites can often encourage you to be physically active, to get out the door, to have somewhere to go and to see people, to be around. They can be literally sites where you exercise. Maybe it's that running group or that gym or yoga studio or dance class, or a place you play with your kids in a pool or a bowling studio if you're older. And then they can also often encourage you to be social. These are the places that we can gather and connect with each other. Maybe it's the place where a book club meets, or it's a site where you know all the regulars and get to be around others. It can also have really, I think, in an era and concerns about an epidemic of loneliness, it can also be places for just indirect and ambient social contact. So not just meeting up with planned community contacts that you have, but being able to sit somewhere and soak up the sounds of conversation or people around you.
According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, social isolation increases dementia risks by 50% and is associated with higher rates of heart disease, stroke, cognitive decline, and depression. For older adults who are retired and live alone, these third spaces play a key role in lessening feelings of disconnection and loneliness. However, despite what we know, these community hubs are disappearing. Across the country, many museums, libraries, and recreation centers have closed or severely cut hours due to funding cuts. Mom-and-pop shops have shuttered under economic pressure. On top of this, the chain establishments that have replaced these spaces aren't designed in a way that welcomes lingering or conversation.
You might notice, depending on what cities you live or frequent, benches that have the barricades within them or spikes that prevent people from sleeping or being in parks at certain times. Even coffee shops, some of the big chains have started to take away the tables. They've put literally uncomfortable chairs in the few spots where they have them. We're even losing sometimes, like instead of a person working, we're encouraged to, use a screen to do our orders and not just talk to someone. So, this technology and some of this, high-paced life, I think it's even filtering into the third places that are still here.
In addition to design, these spaces also need to be affordable. A low-income retiree may live right next door to a nice cafe, but if a latte costs $7 and the chairs are too high, this space doesn't work for them. For many Americans right now, money's tight, and there isn't much disposable income to spend on outings.
We're hearing people are sharing on surveys or interviews very limited budgets and not being able to having to choose quite carefully where they go and what they can engage in. For example, if you have country clubs that are only catering to a very certain economic bracket or other ways of kind of informally shaping spaces that make them less available and accessible to certain individuals, I do need to recognize that they're not always uniformly accessible or affordable, available to all of us.
While these third spaces remain, but only for those who can afford the dues, others are quietly disappearing altogether. and it's often in the neighborhoods with the fewest resources that need them most.
When we looked at the trends, we are seeing an exacerbation, less access or accelerated closures in some of our more vulnerable communities. So communities, neighborhoods that had lower incomes, higher shares of Black residents, isolated rural areas, all of these types of places were losing third places at a greater rate.
But it's all not doom and gloom. As awareness grows, so do the efforts to protect existing third spaces and create new community-led groups.
I've talked a lot about formal businesses and civic establishments that exist kind of in a top-down way, but there's also, community gardens, walking clubs, very informal ways of trying to boost togetherness across, economic divides, across generational divides, creating playgrounds, for example, that have infrastructure for not just children to play in that site, but the shaded benches for adults or older adults to sit, or the exercise equipment for adults to be engaged in, or chess boards, bathrooms, just trying to serve everyone across generations. I have seen increased planning and intentional investment in multi-generational third places that I think is really promising and exciting to see.
As towns and cities debate on how to build more inclusive public space, a different kind of gathering is also happening, one that exists entirely in the digital world. This can cover online book clubs, Zoom trivia nights, gaming forums, even virtual reality. For older adults with mobility issues who can't get to physical spaces, these online activities can fill the void. But Finlay does voice some concerns.
Folks have shared in our studies that online engagement can be more hostile and tense in the way that we use language that might not be expressed in person. We're also seeing some siloing into, algorithms are pushing us into more of those bonding ties, engaged in kind of perspectives, causes, and activities that already align with our existing perspectives, maybe not broadening our minds as much in what we might get when we gathered in person for more of a broadly connected activity or place. So online offers a lot of opportunity, and it's a major shift we're seeing, but it comes with some risks and some concerns. But it is really opening up the worlds for some individuals, especially, for example, in rural areas or those who are more isolated. So online is one way it can help.
The internet can simulate connection, but it can't replace the feeling of being in person. If you're at a free outdoor concert or sitting on a park bench, it's not about striking up a great conversation, but it's the small smile, wave, or compliment that can turn someone's day or week around.
These little moments, and having those, they literally add up into greater health and well-being. We have studies that show if you have a greater number of these really even just small, tiny, indirect, low stress social contacts throughout your day and throughout your week, it's literally linked in studies with tens of thousands of people across the world. Having these greater little social moments of connection with each other is linked to living longer, to increase longevity. So I think it's something we can hopefully all do. Something small is just giving that nod, that wave, that friendly hello. Striking up a conversation you never know, it could literally save someone's life.
It's impossible to bring back every closed neighborhood bar or diner, but we can show up for the still open places that bring people together. As citizens, this means backing candidates that protect funding for public spaces like libraries, park district programs, and recreation centers. It's also important to support local establishments instead of national chains when possible. To learn more about this topic, links to resources, and our guest, Dr. Jessica Finlay, visit viewpointsradio.org. For more behind the scenes and to support our show, follow us on Instagram, X, and Facebook at Viewpoints Radio. This segment was written by our executive producer, Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price.